All right, folks, we are back and recording. I asked for you guys' feedback, and I got some pretty good feedback. Pretty much everyone said ditch the terrorist background here. Looks like I'm trying to negotiate a hostage release. I apologize. We are back with the terrorist background today. One thing led to another. I haven't had an opportunity to decorate for you guys, so I apologize. That being said, we are back. We are recording. What we're going to talk about today is paper tuning or broadhead tuning more important? Or is broadhead tuning the only thing that actually matters? Okay, so we're going to touch on that. And the reason why we're going to touch on that is because this is a controversial subject in the shop. I believe it's a controversial subject in the archery community. We get phone calls every single year. You guys just tuned my bow and it's not shooting broadheads. It's, you know, the bow is shooting broadheads 5 inches to the left or 5 inches to the right. So how can that happen? Why is broadhead tuning important, right? And is paper tuning the end all be all? So the answer is no. I'm just going to come out and say it. Some people are going to argue with me. A large part of the industry says the only important thing is a well-tuned bow. A well-tuned bow means different things to me than it might to you. Now, paper tuning is a tool. Okay, understand that. It is a tool. Broadheads are reality. What does that mean? Paper tuning it's just a diagnostic tool. It's just like taking your truck or your car or whatever to the mechanic, and they use diagnostic tools, right? Luckily on vehicles, you got a computer that'll tell you what's wrong with the sumbitch. Bows, they don't tell you what's wrong with it. So we use paper tuning as a way to diagnose what's wrong. Do we have cams that are out of time? Do we have a rest that's not timed correctly? Do we got a rest that's out of center shot? Do we got cam lane? Do we got bad limb deflections? Do we have fletching contact? There's a lot of things that we can do just based on the diagnostics of that paper tune. So a big misnomer is that you're going to shoot a perfect bolt hole and then also get perfect broadhead flight. Why does that not happen? There's several different reasons. Biggest reason we see, obviously, is you're shooting a fixed blade. You're putting wings on the front of that arrow. So that arrow is trying to steer itself in the front and the back now. And so if those two are not talking to each other, you're going to have issues. Now, oftentimes we'll see, or we'll have folks come in, find us for the first time. Hey, I just took my bow to XYZ box store. When we left, it was shooting perfect bolt holes. But when I got home, my broadheads I couldn't hit a truck with them. And usually that is a result of what we call redneck tuning. It is not actually a well-tuned bow. You can do a lot of redneck stuff to a bow to make it shoot a bolt hole, and it's not correct. I've seen bows come in where the rest was a ½ inch out of center shot, but it was shooting a perfect bolt hole. And whether that was a bad yoke tune, or the cams didn't get shimmed the correct way, or they had a bad limb, and probably the worst one I ever saw, I sent a bow to another spot that I'm not a dealer for this particular bow to get warrantied, and they refused to warranty the bow because they were, and this was a brand new bow, mind you, and so some parts needed warranty, not the bow itself. It had a bin axle, but they were able to get a bolt hole out of it with a bin axle, which I can do that as well. Anybody who knows how to tune a bow can make a bow shoot a bolt hole if you redneck tune it. That doesn't mean it's correct. What's happening is that arrow is coming off of there, usually in a very weird way, right? And those fletchings are correcting it in a very aggressive way immediately. Well, you put a broadhead on the front of this thing, and this thing tries to steer itself to the right because your rest, right? So if we're coming here and your rest is pushing it this way because you've got some insane cam lane, so it's correcting the cam lane Well, this arrow in and of itself is going to try to correct this way, and then you got broadheads on it, so guess what it's doing now? Now it's steering itself, right? Now it's doing whatever it wants to do. So while a perfect bolt hole seems cool, and you can usually shoot your field points really well, a broadhead is really going to show you exactly what's wrong with your bow. Or it's going to tell you that you just need to make some micro adjustments. Okay, so it is very common for us to tune a bow, get perfect bolt holes, and someone calls us and says, hey, it's impacting 5 inches left, right, what have you. Why is that common? Because of the wings on the front of that shaft. So you got to do broadhead tuning, right? Very simple matter of fact statement there, but it gets very, very complicated in a hurry. Guys overcomplicate it. The internet overcomplicates it. Your rest overcomplicates it. The information out there on broadhead tuning is so minimal. You know, the other part that we don't really talk about is maybe it's not the bow, maybe it's not the rest, maybe it's that you have facial pressure, right? Maybe you're shoving this thing into your face, and you know, when it comes out of the bow, yeah, that arrow's self-correcting. But what happens is it gets to about 30, 40, 50 yards, and that arrow has self-corrected, and the momentum of that arrow at 30, 40 yards, all of a sudden you see it dog walk. You see the back of that arrow start moving on you. And usually if we're getting perfect arrow flight and at 40 yards it starts dog walking on us, that indicates to me some facial pressure. Could also be fletching contact, but usually you would see that through paper. If you start seeing an arrow parachuting at, and I'm getting off on a tangent here, but if you start seeing an arrow parachuting at 50 plus yards, usually it's your fletchings. Usually you've got way too aggressive of a helical with way too large veins, and the veins themselves are actually cupping air, and so this arrow starts walking because it's spinning so fast. The back of that arrow is cupping air because it's spinning faster than the arrow is actually flying forward. So as it slows down and this arrow continues to spin wildly fast because your helical is super aggressive, that's what causes that parachuting in the back. But I'm gonna try to get back on topic here. Broadhead tuning. Why is it more important than paper tuning? Because that's how your bow wants to shoot. That's how you need to shoot. You're going out here to harvest an animal, right? You need to make sure that bow is perfectly tuned to that broadhead that you're going to use. Big thing we see as guys moving their sight to the broadhead instead of moving their rest. So I am going to tell you how to broadhead tune, and I'll probably do a video on this in the future, actually showing you in person how we do it. But the number one thing we recommend is a micro tune rest for broadhead tuning. That's all. That's the only reason we recommend a micro tune rest is for broadhead tuning. Otherwise, it serves very little functionality because we're going to set that rest in center shot anyway, right? We're going to set it at 13/16 99% of the time. There's obviously some bows out there that are a little different, but we're going to set it in center shot. Any rest we can set in center shot without micro tune, right? But when you go to broadhead tune, you're going to make your life 10 times easier by having a micro adjustment rest, because when you're broadhead tuning, this is where guys get so messed up. If you can see your rest move, you went too far. That's just what it is. We're talking 30 seconds of an inch we're moving these rests, and that can fix a 6-inch movement on that broadhead. That can mirror your broadhead and your field point. So lots of misinformation out there. This is how you broadhead tune. You can try to argue with me in the comment section if you'd like. I promise you, I have broadhead tuned hundreds of customers' bows. I have broadhead tuned, obviously, many different types of broadheads. The only broadhead out there that I would not recommend broadhead tuning is the Montec M3. That son of a bitch, you better be shooting a slow bow. That thing wants to sail on you. Anyway, other than that, whenever you shoot your broadhead, you're trying to marry it to your field point, okay? So if we shoot our broadhead first, obviously, because if they're already tuned and marrying each other, you're going to hit the back of your arrow. So we shoot the broadhead. it impacts 6 inches to the left of my field point. I'm going to follow the broadhead with my rest. Okay, you do not move it away. Follow the broadhead with your rest. Okay, 2 clicks, 3 clicks, maybe, on your microtune rest. This is why having a positive click on a microtune rest is very important. So you can feel it. Click, click, click. Cool, make sure you went the right direction. And that'll bring them closer together. And maybe it's one more click and a little bit closer. And sometimes that's it, maybe one more click, and all of a sudden we've got a broadhead and a field point that are matching, okay? Now, more often than not, what happens is they marry each other left or right of where you were already sighted in. So this is if you don't have a big broadhead target where you want to kind of start a little bit closer, maybe start at 15 to 20 yards. Oftentimes I'll have a fixed blade marry each other, 1.5 to 2 inches left or right of where my bow is actually sighted in. I've gotten to the point that I can make most of my bows broadhead tuned before I ever get to this point. We do that with walkback tuning. Oftentimes if you are perfectly paper tuned and you have a walkback tune or French tune, it's probably 5 other names for it, whatever you know it as. Generally speaking, that bow will be broadhead tuned, in my experience. Not always, so I'm not going to argue with you in the comment section. Not always, but more often than not, if you do a perfect paper tune on a actually correctly tuned bow, right? We've diagnosed this bow, we've gotten rid of all of the bad eggs in it, and it is shooting perfect bowl holes because that's the way it should be shooting. We're not having to induce weird cam lean and things like that and get rest out of center shot we're making this bow shoot the way it should shoot with a correct tune. And then do a walkback tune. If you do both of those things and you still have broadheads that are shooting left or right, you might look at your broadheads. You might consider something else. I don't see that very often, so I'm not even going to give you an example other than the one I already talked about. That's the only broadhead I've ever truly struggled with. And I think if you're shooting it on an arrow that's less than 280 feet per second, you probably wouldn't have as many issues with that M3. But once you get over that 280 and those arrows really start trying to steer themselves, that's when you're gonna want to do some more broadhead tuning. Okay, so we've covered left and right. Follow the broadhead with your rest. 32nds of an inch, 64th of an inch, tiny, tiny, tiny. If you're hitting high or low, go the opposite, okay? This is where guys get confused. So if my broadhead is impacting lower than my field point, I'm gonna raise my rest up, okay? If it's impacting higher, I'm gonna lower my rest. Again, micro, micro, micro. This is where, like the QID, the HDX, great rest, love the rest. It's tried and true, it's been around a long time. But it's very easy to move that rest way too far. And so guys can get really hemmed up doing that. So we've covered how I tune my bow, which is getting center shot, getting it paper tuned, getting through all the bad eggs in my bow, making sure it's shooting perfect bowl holes if I feel it's necessary. And when I say I feel it necessary, what I do is I get my 20 yards dialed, I build a sight tape, and I walk back to 80 yards. I don't shoot my 30 and 40. I just walk immediately back to 80 yards because I know if I go from 20 to 80 and my bow isn't shooting the way it should, something else is going on. I need to do a walk back tune, right? So if I shoot at 20 yards, perfect bowl hole, I get back to 80 and I've got 4 arrows that are impacting 4 inches left, right? I'm not torquing the bow. I need to do a walk back tune. I need to make an adjustment on that rest, okay? This is one of the more important things. I don't really understand this. I get this call a lot. Guys broadhead tune, they move their rest, broadhead tuning, and or walk back tuning, whatever it is, and then they shoot it through paper again. And like, my bow is not shooting a perfect bolt hole. So I moved it, and then now it's not broadhead tuned. After you broadhead tune, do not paper tune. Do not do it. Your bow is tuned. It's shooting the way it should. Your broadheads are married to your field point. A paper tune is a diagnostic tool. All it does is help us broadhead tune. It's all it does. We diagnose the issues, we fix the issues, we make it easier to broadhead tune. That's the only reason we paper tune. Now, if you're a target guy, obviously it's for accuracy, right? But for a hunting scenario, which is 99.9% of our customers, we're hunters. We set you guys up for hunting. It's simply to make your life easier to broadhead tune. That's why we do it. Okay. I don't know how I can make that more clear. I know I'm going to get some arguments, but paper tuning is important. More important, broadhead tuning. More important than that, good form. Good form is what kills a lot of hunters. We get a lot of people in here with a ton of facial pressure, wrong draw length. They don't index their bow correctly, whether that's, nose on string, whether they have different anchor points every time, whether their peep height is way too low or way too high. Generally speaking, we never see one way too high. It's always way too low. If you are over 5'8" and your peep height is below 6 inches, something might be wrong with your bow, or something might be wrong with your form. Or you got a really short face, which does happen. But just remember, the higher the peep height, the more distance you're going to get, right? As far as when you start dialing that bow out to distance, the shorter the peep height, the faster you're going to run out of that fletching contact on that sight. So if you want to shoot as far as possible, index your bow correctly. All right, hopefully that covered it for you guys. Yeah, paper tuning versus broadhead tuning. Paper tuning is important, but remember, we use it as a diagnostic tool. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how your field points shoot. It doesn't matter. They're not what's going to kill your elk, okay? Broadheads are what kill elk. Paper doesn't kill elk. So come talk to us. Come see us if you have any questions about what I'm saying or why I'm saying it. Just know I've got a lot of experience under my belt with these things. If you need help broadhead tuning, because it can be a pain in the ass, excuse my language, but it can be difficult. If you need help, come see us or call us if you're not local to us. But if you follow my instructions, it's very easy. Follow the broadhead with your rest left and right, go away from it up and down, and very, 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 very micro adjustments. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate everyone. Hope you guys are having a wonderful spring, and look forward to helping everyone get ready for this hunting season.